Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Spiritual Awakening and Personal Power Journey 30-day program designed to connect you even more deeply with your own spiritual path, regardless of how that's defined. I go into that in, I think that's day one. And I also explore why do a 30-day program. So make sure you've checked out those videos. So, do you want to understand some of the things that can get in the way of you making changes that can disrupt you from meeting your goal, regardless of how good your intentions are? So tune in, have a listen, and I'll explain a little bit more. Because I've worked with clients ever since I started, or halfway through my training when I trained as a therapist. So that was 1997. I started in 95. I started working with clients in 97. And I worked mostly with adults. And then from around sort of up until about 99, I worked with adults. And then around 2001, 2002, I went into schools and I started supporting teachers, teaching staff, delivering training there, but also working with young people. And when you're working with young people, the traditional approach of sitting there just listening and giving the young person space to talk isn't always enough to support them to open up and share things. So you'd need a range of tools to facilitate a conversation. So this is about kind of one, what's the kind of space that we need in order to start connecting with where we're really at right now in this mindful moment. So even just for a moment now, take a breath, engage on a scale of 1 to 10. 10, you feel amazing, and 0, you don't feel amazing at all. You feel the opposite. Gauge where you are right now. And I always do this in my workshops. So say you said, I'm 7, 8, you're feeling pretty good, but you dip on and off throughout the day. You can have a look at what those dips are, and you can have a look at what can kind of disrupt overall the actions that you're taking to stick to something that you know feels good, that's better for you. So first of all, as I did in one of the other videos, do an audit about how you use your time and energy. How you use your energy is a really important point. And then what, even with intentions, and you set your plan to do something for 30 days, what can get in the way of that? I mean, we all manage it, right? Well, we don't do it. And I've started several programs, and did I complete all of them? No. Sometimes life happens, and sometimes our internal dialogue gets in the way. Sometimes something isn't completely lined up, or a range of events happen. You've run out of petrol, um, so you can't get there. It delays your time. A new work project came up, someone in the family contacted you, and then that's how do you prioritize time, and that's a separate conversation. So this is about going deeper and understanding how your beliefs and values can shape who you are, but also the role of the ego and how the ego can get in the way. So, as you know, our beliefs come from early experiences, family, culture, and society. If you sat down and sat back and think, what is it I believe about myself? How do I describe myself? Those would have come from the early conditioning, the messages that you heard, or outright sayings that were said in the family. Some are empowering and some are limited and outdated. So, awareness, as I talked about in the very first set of videos, is the first step in transformation. So, when we identify with beliefs that serve us or those that do not, we can choose new ones that we align with our growth. So, belief and value work is a deeper piece of work, but this is just to start to introduce you to the idea that even when you've got the best of intentions and you've created a plan and you've decided where these different activities of rest, fitness, work, family time, you time go, and how you keeping track of that, there are things that, like I said, just get in the way. And our values are our compass that guides us to what feels good and meaningful. So if you value fun time, freedom, happiness, then if you are doing things that give you a sense of freedom and that is fun and that's happy, you're aligning with your values. And the idea is the more we align with our values, the happier and healthier we are, and the better well-being and mental health we've got. And that's when we know that our life can flow more easily. But here's the tricky part: the ego often resists change because it wants to keep us safe, familiar, and in control. And so the brain's job is to keep you safe. So if for one moment you imagined that every day we go out and do our thing, we come into contact with millions of bits of data every day. We walk down the street, we've got all this information coming about the people that we're walking past, what they're wearing, what's the weather's like, what smells are happening, the noise on the roads. Then we go to work, we've got emails, telephones ringing, people's energy, people's conversations. So we're bombarded with bits of information every day. So our beliefs and values are like psychological filters. So it's almost like the brain decides what comes in and what doesn't come in. And a lot of what comes in is outside of our conscious awareness. So the idea is to evolve as a human, we need to keep safe. We don't need to keep in fight or flight and always wondering where the next penny's coming from, where the next meal's coming from. And that's what keeps us in fight or flight. But there's other things that move us into fight or flight, or we could have been in fight or flight a lot because we experienced trauma as a child, or there's some domestic abuse that you've experienced in a previous or current relationship. And so it's there again, they're deeper pieces of work, but I just want to show you how the job of the brain is to keep you safe, and the ego will resist change, even if you're getting some benefit and you're feeling good about those changes. And then what can happen is either other people around you will start noticing that on some level and trying to distract you or get you to do things with them that maybe you don't want to do. And again, that's about listening to your intuition, prioritizing your needs at times or more of the time. But you can have those inner conflicts. It really depends on your own personal psychology. And so your old fears, old habits will keep resurfacing. So the classic one is, you're meant to get up in the morning, you want to get up, you're really ready, I'm going to get up, get dressed, get to work on time. Or working at home, being an entrepreneur, you have to be a lot more disciplined because you haven't got a boss that's saying we're not going to pay you or fire you if you don't get up and sit at your desk. So you've got to pull that from yourself. So you can wake up and think, oh, really need another half an hour. Or you can set yourself the goal of you're going to get up, do some yoga, have a healthy breakfast, and then in the end, you get up late, you don't have long in the shower, you haven't had the chance to connect with where you're at right now in the day, and then do some stretching and do things that feel good. And so sometimes this is the ego that's playing out underneath. It can be other people and it can be us. And so I just want to flag that up, that can be what's going on. So you've got to start being aware of the inner dialogue, the things that you're saying to yourself, like, oh, don't get up, just spend another 5 minutes. Oh, that doesn't matter, you can do it tomorrow. Oh, I'll do that later. Or, oh, I'll go and spend time. So, oh, you're not fun because you're not going out. Or all of this sort of inner dialogue that happens. So we bring awareness to these dynamics that you can learn to work with your ego and not against it, allowing for smoother transformation. So have this just gently eases us into the idea of core beliefs and values and exploring how the ego might be showing up in resistance or fear. Now, it took me quite a while to really feel into what resistance felt like. And it's been really, I had a time a couple of months ago and I was listening to a podcast. It was one of David Bayer's. I think it was about mindset. And I found myself getting really irritated and frustrated when I was listening to it. I was like, checking in what's going on, why are you feeling frustrated? And I realized that I was really struggling that weekend to show up for myself and do the things that I'd already planned were good ideas, that it fit at the time. And so I really started digging deep into this idea of beliefs and values, sedimented beliefs, limiting beliefs, and how sometimes we say to people, David was saying that on the podcast as well, and I know he wasn't intending it in this way, just change your beliefs and do things differently. And it sounds really simple, whereas you've got all this resistance going in your body, and it's like walking through treacle. If you've ever felt that time when your body's just really, really heavy, or you can't be bothered, you feel really tired. And one of the other things that I learned a few years ago is I felt really tired, but I was mentally tired. So when I got to the gym or went for a swim, I could physically do it because I hadn't physically done much that day, but mentally I was done. I'd read enough, stared at the screen long enough, and was starting to feel grumpy. And so, another email. And then I'd go and have a swim and I'd do it in a nice flow and I wouldn't be rushing. And then I come out and my mood has shifted and my state's better. Unless you're heading towards burnout, then you'd start losing the joy of those things too. So, as I said, our beliefs are formed in childhood, and it's worth unpacking what kind of beliefs you've got and whether or not they're outdated. Because the other thing that clients that I work with can struggle with is their old concept of the way that they see themselves and who they think they are is now having an internal battle with the person that you're becoming. Because once you start to check in with yourself and say, what do I believe? What do I value? What matters? You're already making shifts because now you're just not taking everything at face value. So the tarot card that would go with this is the Hierophant. And the Hierophant, like I said, if you've got your own tarot, get the Hierophant out. And it represents tradition, wisdom, and structures of belief that shape our lives. So to some degree, we need some structure. And I was having a conversation with someone a while ago that because I'm a very freedom loving spirit and I've never really liked structure, but I also realized that some level of structure and routine was good for my mental health. And it stopped me slipping and flowing all the time and actually got more grounded, where I would say, okay, I need to make sure I do this when I wake up. If I do this, this, and this, I can feel that my mood is moving into a place of feeling more mentally alert, switched on, and productive. I like that feeling. So then you get the benefit from doing that. I have a habit of sitting cross-legged on my office chair, and then after a while, I can't move my hips. Um, so the belief systems will be sitting in your conscious and your unconscious ideas, and that guides your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, and also encourages you to question whether or not you've inherited or decided what truly aligns with your authentic self. And so there is a values exercise that you can do. I think it has about 75 words on it. And you choose all the ones that are most important to you. And then when you've done that list of what's most important, you can put some down that are also important, but most important. And then you choose about 10 and you decide, okay, what are the ones that really matter? Is it loyalty, honesty, timekeeping, turning up, freedom, autonomy? Different people, and you can have values that work more in your working life and those that work outside of it. So there's a whole load of work that psychologists have done around the ego, but I just wanted to sort of hint towards how the ego can step in and say, no, no, we're comfortable where we are, we're not changing, we want to stay on the sofa every night doing Groundhog Day for the next 10 years. Whereas the other part of us, our soul, wants to grow and expand and discover and find new things and have new experiences. So sometimes you can feel that conflict. And so sometimes you can misperceive this feeling that you have as actually your intuition saying, I don't want to do it. And I've had that run several times. And I've got like a spiritual guide that I contact every so often, and would say to him, I'm feeling really anxious about this. I'm not sure about it. And he'd say, no, you're not. You're feeling excited. I was like, no, I'm not feeling excited. Am I feeling excited? And what it was the old internal critic that was coming in and sabotaging the feeling that I was getting. Because if you allow that internal critic, that internal dialogue, you're not good enough, you can't do it. Where are you going? Who do you think you are? Why are you doing that? People will look at you in a particular way, especially if you derive validation externally, then that internal critic can be incredibly powerful. So we need to look at that internal critic and say, I can do it. I am growing and changing. I'm getting stronger every day. So we need to change that those internal negative statements into positive ones. And this isn't just about willy-nilly affirmations. This is about checking yourself out and learning the power of language. And I'm going to do another video of that and how that massively impacts your mindset, your well-being, your energy, and your state, and even block you from a happy and healthy life. So do consider that. We've just started to go deeper as we're moving in to the next few videos that I'm recording on this. So the book recommendation with this is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And it is a really fascinating story, actually, because even though I think he went to uni, I don't know if he completed the degree and then went off and thought, I'm going to go and create this space in the woods and no one will come and bother me. And in the end, lots of people started passing by, and it sort of developed into community and developed into a life work that he was not expecting at all. And that's the thing, when we get plenty of rest, we can also start connecting with those little urges and nudges that tell us to say yes rather than no. So the song recommendation is Breathe Me by Sia, a hauntingly beautiful song that resonates with surrender and self-awareness. So the research behind this is neuroscience shows us that our brains form beliefs through repeated experiences. That changing beliefs requires conscious attention and new experiences to create lasting neural pathways. The ego's resistance to change is linked to the brain's survival mechanism, which prioritize familiar patterns for safety. And this goes right back into our, prehistoric brain, lizard brain. So the crystal is lapis lazuli, known for enhancing self-awareness and wisdom and truth-telling. And the journal prompts that we'll finish on today is, what are the 3 core beliefs that you hold about yourself and the world? How do they serve or limit you? What values do you want to live with more fully? How can you align your daily actions with your values? And when you try to change, what fears or inner voices show up? How can you work with these parts compassionately? And I will do a video on parts work, because there was a book, a phenomenal book I read years ago, and it really blew my mind, actually, about how we can approach these different parts of ourselves. And it's very freeing. And that's the thing, conditioning, beliefs, values, if they go unchecked, can limit us to the point we can actually start to get depressed and anxious and experience some issues with our mental health. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. Like and subscribe to my page if you haven't already, and look out for the bonus videos. Drop me a line, let me know what you think of what I'm exploring today, whether you've tried anything before, and email me if you're interested in sharing any feedback or joining my Kickstarter session, which is 3 separate appointments that help identify where you are, move you forward with some goals and tools that are aligned to you, and then a review session that we look more deeply into that, have a look at what resistance is getting in the way and what's working for you. And yes, I will have some workshops alongside this program, so look out for those notifications. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. I will see you on the next video.